Alrighty, chummers. We have got the beginning of a brand new campaign, Storm the Matrix, sequel to the Storm the Castle campaign. Okay, so as a first session, every first session of every campaign, always rough. And this one was definitely on the rough side. And yeah, when it comes to first sessions of campaigns, it's always kind of anxiety inducing. This one even more so because not only was it a totally new campaign, totally new rule set that we were working with, a totally new game, and not even a game that I had ever played before. It's mostly Blades in the Dark, but I never played it before, so I was just running off of like the one like YouTube video I saw of people actually playing the game. Uh, there were definitely a good handful of mistakes made during the course of the game. And that first session, that's your opportunity to get that first impression, lay down the groundwork, really, get that lasso going, hook everyone in, and really set the mood and the expectations for the rest of the campaign. And I could definitely very viscerally feel that lasso not particularly catching people and really getting them rearing for the next campaign or for the next session. Uh, which, sometimes that happens, especially for like the playtest of a new system, new game. You gotta just roll with the punches. So I was pretty sure even before we started that this wasn't going to be a perfect session. But all things considered, it wasn't that bad. I think we had some good, memorable moments come out of it. I definitely could tell just I had too much thought put into not forgetting all the things I wanted to say about Session Zero and just all the things I wanted to tell people about the game, which I have since, and I'm even now coming up with more things that I'm thinking of that I should have told people before we started. And I just put so much time into trying, or so much of my mental energy I could tell was being put forth into just trying to remember the rules and not trying to forget how the game functions. I could definitely tell the fiction, the narrative had suffered a bit from that. But I've got very, very high hopes, very high expectations for the next session. Like, following any session of any campaign of any game I've ever run, I don't think I've ever had as high of hope and excitement for the next session as I do for this game and this first session. Okay, so differences. So, some major, giant lessons that I've learned from the last campaign that I want to port over and learn and, develop from for this campaign. I think where I mostly went wrong in the last campaign is I do not think I made it character-y enough. Like, really all entirely dependent on the characters themselves, which is just where 90% of time with an RPG is spent is dealing with the various characters and their interactions. And so if they are not fun and developed and and if players don't have a desire to explore and find out like what's going on with their character, then that's just like the whole game not there, not present. So I very much so wanted to make sure I cultivated like an environment where all the problems arose and came out of the characters and their like personalities and the things going on with their lives, and that I wanted all of the problems ideally to be solved by the characters and like their specific personalities and the specific things that they're good at and all the things that they have like worked for together over their careers. And this first session definitely did not really do much of any of that. In part, that's because session one, the first adventure, since I have no idea what's like coming into this, at least like for what they're looking like crew wise, I kind of just threw together like a random mission that really could have been used for any crew at all. So I definitely think it was lacking that personal factor. Like just like every single time you ever finish any session, you can't help but think of a million different things you could have done during that session that would have been perfect and super dramatic and entertaining and probably great character moments. But you just got to take all those millions of things you don't think of and then try to insert them into the next session. All right, so let's get started with a quick rundown of the characters. We have got Steam, the half-orc, used to work for the corporations and has gotten fired for racism against half-orcs and is now an anti-corporate runner on the streets. Their specialty, very, very good at hacking. That is their main thing. A decker, if you will. We've got Shred, a half-orc, somewhere between terrorist and anarchist, bomb maker, very much so all in on that sort of Unabomber angle that, society is a mistake and we need to tear it down, at least from what I've gathered so far from this character. And we have got Boyd, the vaguely hairier Dubois alcoholic with an ex-wife, except this person doesn't have amnesia and is an ex-cop, so no longer a cop. And they're a human, and they're the face of the group, the charismatic, the presence, the social person. Then we have got Ed the elf. Ed is short for Edal. They're very community leader type, pillar of the community in Elf Town, helping all the refugees and immigrants and all the people coming in from the wastelands. They are the group's like enforcer, the soldier, the muscle, if you will. And their fixer is Sarge, an orc veteran who I'm sure will probably come up and be more important in future sessions. Their lair, they decided to start in the district of Lostum, which, you know what, I will mark that down right now. Just God forbid I somehow managed to forget. So this was definitely an interesting choice. I think the Lostum district is the totally derelict, effectively a quarantined, abandoned, zero police presence, owned or controlled by just full-on anti-existence terrorists. I'm sure there will be some weird post-apocalyptic things that are happening to them. I'm now thinking I maybe should have done something with the crews where they're like upgrade, they're like their claims, their buildings that they sort of get to make. They're like things that they get to do to improve their crew. Maybe I should have based that or had some more of a tie between that and the district they are in rather than them being entirely detached. since I've got rid of like the crew types, maybe that could have been the thing that I introduced to sort of replace that. So I still think there's gonna be some thinking that it really goes into figuring out how a crew works in this like almost non-society part of the city. So we'll see. My guess is it's probably going to involve lots of like mutants and non-humans, if I had to guess. They came up with a very cool layer. I was very, very, impressed by what they had come up with this, like air base that was used, because in Lost Town was at one point sort of the like defense contractor military industrial district part of the city. So they are hanging out in an air hangar that has just a giant tree growing out of it that they have since called the Gallow. There's also that like motif of like all the buildings being covered in like overgrowth and everything like that. So they managed to incorporate all the different aspects of the identity of Lostham into their lair. So I don't think they could have done any better than that. They've called their lair the Gallow, and then their crew is the Hangmen because they hang out at the Gallow because there's a giant tree there. I imagine they've got to have some calling card where they like hang people from trees as like their thing. That hasn't come up yet, but I will be sure to try to maybe push that the next time we do get a session in. Now on to the first mission. So again, this first mission kind of tutorially, pretty divorced from any of their characters, just a random mission. The inspiration for this was watching The Godfather, and there's that scene where they take the movie producer and they like cut off his stud horse's head, and then they like put it in his bed. And I was thinking to myself, like, how did that happen? Like, what was the process of events that like occurred in order to like just thinking about the guys that must have had to go to the stables with like a saw or something and literally just saw off this horse's head, and then the process of them somehow getting it back and then putting it into this guy's bed while he's still asleep, which I definitely just totally blanked and forgot about the while he's still asleep part of the whole thing. So well, anyway, okay. So they went down to Delta Downs, the racing track in the Fort Dealer, where all the like entertainment district is. So I just thought it made sense for the racing tracks to be there. The Daughters of Anara. Oh yeah, nothing. They rolled a 10 on their engagement roll, so they definitely just totally avoided the majority of any like encounters or any problem that I guess I probably would have otherwise had them run into just getting into the parking lot or something of this facility. But they got a 10, so they were already just inside, basically on with the mission, just getting it started. I had the Daughters of Anara outside the racing track protesting as like an animals rights thing. I thought of this just as like a set dressing kind of thing. I thought it would have been a funny thing that the Daughters of Anara would have done, but it ended up becoming pretty relevant that they were there. So I'm happy that I decided to just like throw them in there as like a last second sort of thing. So they went inside, they talked to the bookie. They're able to get the bookie to let them into the stables. Then they do some hacking and they do some social checks, and they are able to get the axe beak out. And at this point, they run into the hired security of the stables, Cao Bei. He is a gold kobold street a street samurai, an honorable fighter. I definitely should have had him do some dialogue and definitely challenge these players to a duel or something. Instead, he just ended up not saying anything and getting shot, having a little bit of that um, the Indiana Jones scene where the guy goes crazy with the sword and then Indiana Jones just shoots him. Which even then, I probably could have at least gone fully into that angle and then played this for a laugh. But instead, I think this kind of just fell flat. There was just a kobold there that they shot and killed. So they rode the Axebeak away. I did initially think like they were just going to kill the Axebeak Fly-O-My there. I definitely probably should have had something with the Axebeak. Like I definitely talked about the vitals monitor, the fact that like if you kill this Axebeak, then it'll like signal something that shows that it has been killed. I originally intended for there to also just be a straight up like actual tracker on it as well, like just straight up GPS. And I just totally forgot to mention anything like that. So they just ended up running out of the stables with the Axebeak. Now, this was supposed to be a I intended to introduce like a bit of a dilemma here, in that this prize stud Axebeak, just from its combination of the amount of cyberware it has and from it just being a prized stud animal, that it was just worth 1,000,000 new gold in and of itself. So I meant for there to be a moment where there was going to be a choice where it's like, okay, do you guys just want to take this thing, steal it, and then try to fence it, and then like try to make just a lot of money by stealing and selling this prized Axebeak? Or do you want to actually go through with your job and not make the boss mad and like actually just do what they wanted you to do and just take the 100K that they're offering you? I definitely did not like push that enough as a like, hey guys, you could just steal it. I definitely should have like made that a little more obvious to show that there was like a choice there. So they take the Axebeak and then they bring it back to a parking lot or a parking garage where they kill it and then blow it up to destroy any evidence, which was a good call. Destroy get rid of any trace of any evidence. Actually, I forgot before this, Delta Down says they were trying to get the horse out as they're trying to get the Axebeak out of the stables and past security. They opened up all the stalls to the entire stables and just let all of the horses and rideable animals all go crazy and just start rampaging all over the parking lot. And then all the Daughter of Anara protesters started going crazy too. Daughter of Anara protesters, I think that would have been a good opportunity for me to say like, oh, Ed, one of them notices you and recalls from your time. That would have been a good opportunity to compel him with his aspect by saying that, because one of his aspects is that he has like some problems with magic stemming from his relation with his past experiences with the Daughters of Anara. So that would have been a good opportunity to have something happen there because of his character. Just totally forgot. So they took the Axebeak. They go to Picarelli's Manor. Oh man, just realized another thing I forgot Forgot that the whole point was that his room was going to be built in like an artificial pond, and that he was just gonna have a giant lily pad that he slept in, uh, almost like a makeshift like water bed kind of thing. Totally forgot about that though. So they went to Picarelli's manor, and out front they saw a basilisk that was kept as like a guard dog, basically. They just sort of just walked around it, which fair enough. Went to the back, opened the storm cellar, saw that there was a frog hemoth in the basement. I figured maybe they do something with that, and or God forbid things go horribly wrong, then having a giant monster in the basement could just cause even more chaos and wild stuff to happen. Yeah, I think they probably made the right call by just leaving that guy be. Then they go in through the window. They see that Picarelli's Guma is in his bed. I definitely just completely blanked on the angle of having this happen while Picarelli is asleep in his own bed. So I guess now he's just going to open his bedroom door and walk into this happening rather than um, rather than him waking up to it. So, well, whatever. They go in through his bedroom window. They see his mistress there. They point a gun at her, specifically Ed, who has climbed up to the window, and demands that she unlock it, which, good call. You don't have to break through the whatever alarms or anything that might have previously been set on the window. Then they basically just climbed. Oh, actually no, they affect basically threw Galadria, the elf Guma, out the window. So she got slightly injured by that. Then they put the Axebeak's head in his bed. And there was a moment where his kids were going to check in on him, but Ed was able to, using the front door, get all his kids out of the house first by playing up the fake cop angle, which, I was a fan of the playing into the whole ex-cop thing and using that to your advantage. So yeah, the Tadpole kids, they ended up, there was a brief moment where Ed almost slaughtered all the Tadpole kids in a Revenge of the Sith, just like moment of lapse of judgment, maybe. Which I guess that would have been interesting if someone went full psychopath in the first session and just started murdering kids. Which I guess, you're a criminal. You can do that. But that ended up not happening. Then we went to Downtimes. Downtime, very unhappy with how I proceeded to do this, because I was very, very much so not trying to just let the thing happen where I'm just like, okay, pick your downtime, make your roll, and then we're done. But I don't know, maybe some combination of I felt like I had spent enough time at the beginning of the session just going over all the session 0 like rules and stuff that I felt like it was getting late, and I just I don't know if it was some combination of me feeling like anxious or impatient or desiring to like get this over with, and or seeing some antsiness in the group and seeing that like getting that feeling that people might have been done at this point. So we went through the downtimes. Yeah, I really ideally wanted to make these all like character scenes where we actually go in and like have you interact with someone to figure out how you're actually going about this downtime. Steam created some like false videos, some like AI generated stuff to make it look like the other people were responsible for the job. And basically all these bots just flooding the social media with like misinformation that it was pretty much impossible to tell who's actually responsible for who committed this crime, because now there's a million different versions of a million different people committing the crime. Or specifically, actually, they pinned it on members of the Dudes. We had Shred, who has begun a long-term project to create some incendiary grenades to use in the future. Very fire-based arson type stuff. Boyd attempted to reduce heat by talking to his police contacts and trying to spread the just create even more like losing the lead by trying to put the blame on various other people. And we have got Ed, who's recovered some edge by appeasing his trouble, by trying to introduce Galadriel into Elftown and getting her working in the community center, the real savior complex, getting the prostitute off the streets, that whole arc, which I'm sure that'll go somewhere. And everyone had decided for the next job what they want to do is go after the vicissitudes who they are at war with and take some more turf to expand their gang network. Oh no, not vicissitude. There we go. I definitely think that'll just instantly introduce some more character connection to what's going on in the session, because now they're going to be actively choosing the thing that they are going to get. Now they are actively, they have a reward that they want, that they're going after, more turf, and they are choosing their target, the vicissitudes, as someone that they are trying to damage in their efforts. They are just extraordinarily grossly outnumbered by the vicissitudes at this point. So I do imagine that if there is going to be an end to this war, I can only imagine there'll be some sort of negotiation based, at some point things are probably going to get so bad for the vicissitudes that they're basically going to have no other option than to make peace at some point. I am glad that they went with the vicissitudes as one of the factions that they were going to interact with in this campaign, because I do just really, really like that gimmick of all fleshy technology and all organotech everything. That existence type video drone technology stuff. A really big fan of that, so I'm sure some weird, interesting stuff will come out of that. Okay, so no, I'm just going to go over the things that I am going to do next time that I realized I blundered on this time. One, I didn't have any one-on-one character moments of people getting a chance to really show off who they are and their personality and having conversations and all of that. So I do think next session I'm just going to come up with intro scenes for each of them and actually just throw them into some kind of free play conflict that they've gotten themselves into because of their aspects, and then just sort of force them to work their way out of that. or just have some sort of scenes to just explore who they are as people to some extent at all. Okay, the handler, Sarge, their fixer. I realized, during the campaign or during the mission itself, I was thinking to myself, like, it would be nice if I had a little DMPC running around with them to interact with them just to get the conversation going, just to have someone there to start talking. And it's just like, I should have given them some other goon, some other mook to fill that role. Totally forgot that the fixer could have just been the GTA, the heist Lester, the guy that just calls them and is talking to them over the earpiece and telling them, like, whenever new developments come up and occur, and it's like, hey guys, I'm picking up some signals on my police scanner, stuff like that. That would have been a perfect opportunity. Just totally missed that. But I definitely plan on doing that a lot more as like a way to get information to the characters in universe, in game, through the voice of someone rather than by just telling them what's happening. Clocks. There were multiple, like, basically every single time they rolled, I was thinking to myself, like, this whole Blades in the Dark thing is actually really tough, because as soon as you let someone roll on something at all, you pretty much guarantee that they are going to do that thing. Like, it's all someone has to do is get a single hit on their check on however many dice they roll, and they pass. So I knew, like, as soon as I let someone roll for something, like, they're gonna do it. And coming up with consequences for things, because the whole point of the consequence is you can't undo what they did. Like, if they ride a horse or something, they're like riding a wild beast and they succeed on that, or they get a mixed success. Like, if they get even a single hit, it's like, yeah, you're riding the wild beast. Like, I let you roll for it, so you can do it, and you are doing it. And then coming up with the consequence, I was just like, I don't know. So often it's like I have no idea what would be a fair or reasonable or interesting consequence to have happen here. Totally forgot about clocks, and that being a core fundamental aspect of Blades in the Dark. They seem like they would have been, like, perfect in all those situations, because it's basically a real, at least for the first couple of times it happens, it's like a non-consequence, because nothing is, like, immediately occurring from you suffering some sort of failed state. It makes the number of hits relevant, because it's like, oh, you got just barely one hit on this, okay, then you are filling a ton of ticks on this negative clock. Or it's like, oh, okay, you got 4 hits on this, all right, yeah, you only just get 1 tick on this clock. So that, yeah, the clocks also, whenever you introduce them, it's just instant tension, because it's just instantly there is this new threat looming over everyone for the rest of this mission, that every single time people fail, they'll just get closer and closer and closer. It just is like a perfectly built-in, just like, introduction into rising action, into, like, climax, just all as just one little simple package to just throw in. So definitely mad at myself for not having a single clock complication, and almost always just trying to think of, like, what could conceivably be, like, a harm that one might suffer. I also just don't think I had enough rolls in general. This being the first session, I had no idea what the pacing was going to look like. I had no idea if something like the fight with the kobold should be a thing that takes like 3-5 rolls to get over. I had it take a single roll, just one roll. You just lined up his gun and shot him, and then he was dead. I think that definitely was under the amount. I think that since that was kind of the like one sort of fighty thing that I had prepared, I probably should have tried to make that closer to like a 3 roll kind of thing. So I definitely think just way more rolls in the future. I was also scared that everyone was just going to fail everything that everyone attempted. So I definitely made most things like controlled rather than risky or desperate, which I think in the future I gotta get that. Like controlled is very much so like the outlier, and like most things should be like risky, and then like yeah, I think there should even be more like desperate rolls than there are controlled rolls, especially because there's all those I definitely needed more like checks and stuff to try to like reasons to encourage people to spend their edge to make rolls even easier, and by not trying to go for like I don't know, definitely just should have had more desperate rolls and stuff. Made stuff more difficult in general, I think. Make things take more successes. Okay, and yeah, okay. So I do believe I touched on everything that I wanted to talk about. I do think I want to look more into the gangs and cohorts, because I think that could be an interesting direction to introduce some more NPCs from. I don't know if there was like specifically a thing in Blades in the Dark about how you actually get more gang members. I know like they said is, I guess that now that I think about it, it is like a long-term project kind of thing that I definitely should have introduced as just like a, hey guys, if you want to do a long-term project, or if you want to get more members, you can like recruit more people off the street and or experts in this field as a long-term project. So actually, now that I think about it, definitely should have done that. Was there anything else? I do think I want to have some more magic elements, like I did of the bullywugs and the elves and the basilisks and the froghemoth and the axebeaks. But I think I want to have like a straight up wizard next time, throwing fireballs and stuff. Which again, yeah, I guess, yeah, in combats they'll get their chance to cast spells by just having them take longer, not getting a shot once and instantly dying. Okay. So, yeah, I do believe now I've like touched on everything I wanted to say. I am very, very excited for this next session. I do think I'm no longer going to be worried about just remembering the rules at all. I'm going to be a lot more in my head about just being able to think of interesting things to have happen. I guess just in general, playing this heavily improv style game over D&D, I'm no longer just thinking about like in D&D, I very much so got in that pattern of like, okay, all our players are here. How do I get them to the combat? Perfect, we're in the combat. And then it's like, okay, how do we get them to the next thing? Which, since in this game, it's pretty much a given that the missions and the downtime exist, and we pretty much just cut to the mission starting and the downtime starting, there's not really, I really don't have to worry about or focus at all on the like, how do we just get them to the next thing? I can just put all of my focus entirely into like, okay, now that we are here, like, how do I make this as interesting as possible? How do I make this specific scene as fun and as dramatic as I possibly can? Okay, so yeah, now that's it for realsies. I will catch y'all chummers next time.